Hey y'all, Uncle Jimmy here. When you speak for yourself, you're forced to think for yourself. And when you think for yourself, the sports world looks different. In order to enjoy this podcast and this show, you need to have the courage to look at the world from alternative points of view and not be offended when you disagree. Speak for yourself isn't your Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram feed. SFY tells you what you need to hear and not what you want to hear. So, welcome aboard, buckle up, and enjoy the ride.
We start today with the Philadelphia Eagles. All right, when it comes to dating, I've been compared to the old school Chicago Cubs, the lovable losers. It's true. I'm not ashamed. I've been dumped more times than Khloe Kardashian at NBA All-Star Weekend.
Wow.
But like Khloe and the Cubs, who went 108 years without a World Series title, I'm a legend in these streets. And it's just like I told my last girlfriend, good luck finding someone inside your nursing home to replace me. Nothing worse than trying to replace a legend. That's the lesson Carson Wentz is learning in Philadelphia. It doesn't matter what he does or what his teammates don't do, Wentz can't replace the legend of Nicky Foles, the heroic backup who led Philadelphia to its first ever Super Bowl title. This morning, there's a headline on the USA Today website that asks, when will the Eagles be able to count on Carson Wentz to win close games? Ouch. The Eagles lost 27-24 to the Detroit Lions on Sunday. Philly played without his two best receivers, Alshon Jeffrey and Deshaun Jackson. One of their replacements dropped a would-be game-winning touchdown pass in the final seconds. Philly's entire offensive line was captured on tape, standing flat-footed and spectating as three pass rushers buried Wentz. Look at this. This is incredible footage. Philly's linemen owe Wentz and the rest of the Eagles an apology for this mind-blowing lack of effort. The Eagles can't count on their offensive linemen to do their jobs in close games. That's why the Eagles are 1-2 and are in a must-win situation Thursday night at undefeated Green Bay. Philly, allegedly the most talented team in the NFL, is already 2 games behind the 3-0 Cowboys in the NFC East. The Eagles are the league's biggest disappointment so far because Wentz's teammates are failing to do their jobs. But stories about offensive linemen are boring. So let's focus on Wentz. The USA Today story goes on to point out that the Eagles are 6-8 under Wentz since he returned from knee surgery early in the 2018 season. They're 4-7 in games decided by 7 points or less. The problem for Wentz in Philadelphia is he provides cover for everyone else's failures. All Eagles failures are interpreted through the lens of what Wentz didn't do that Nick Foles might have done. It's a built-in excuse. Human beings find built-in excuses irresistible. Well, if I wasn't so busy, I'd cook at home and avoid fast food. I just didn't have time to make it to the gym this morning. Jason Peters, Jason Kelsey, and Lane Johnson, the core of Philadelphia's offensive line, they're no different from me or you. Give them an excuse and they'll run with it. Carson Wentz isn't as popular inside the Eagles locker room as Foles was. Wentz makes the most money. He can't compete with the legend of Nick Foles. The tall tale says Foles made Philly special. Or maybe Foles' real magic was making the rest of the Eagles feel important, needed, and special. When I look at the tape of the Philly offensive linemen doing nothing, they appear to be saying, Wentz doesn't need us. And that's the problem in Philadelphia. The attitude of Wentz's teammates isn't right. Let's quit blaming Wentz for that. All right, joining the desk now are Fox Sports NFL analysts Eric Dickerson and Mark Schlereth. Marcellus, I'll start with you.
Yeah.
Y'all didn't laugh hard enough when I said I was dating a woman in a nursing home.
It made our expectations.
That was real.
Be true. I mean, we were like, you blurring the lines here. It could be real.
All right. Is Carson Wentz taking too much heat for the Eagles' slow start?
No, he's not taking too much heat. Look, I could go down the list and everything you said in statistical form. Losing team since he returned from injury last year, that's damning right there. We could talk about no Alshon Jeffrey, no Deshaun Jackson. Hey, double Zach Ertz and you got this offense. We get all that. Offensive line, futile effort, getting sacks, giving up sacks. But let's talk about this. When you get all the money, you get all the hell that comes with it. You get all the criticism, you get all the scrutiny, and we know that. And these football players are simple, but they're smart. Hate when people say that football players weren't smart, because I'm going to apply right now the substitution theory of geometry to this situation in Philadelphia. I've been there before, and we all know the substitution property, don't we? I bet we don't. All right, let's go back to my 8th grade year, when if there are two congruent properties, then you can exchange them and everything works out just fine. You ready for this, Whitlock? If Carson Wentz is supposed to be who he is, and he's better than Nick Foles, or at least comparable, then we should be able to exchange them in this system, and it just runs as well as it did with Nick Foles. Problem with it is the results are not the same. So now we have to start to look at the individuals. Carson Wentz puts up numbers. Carson Wentz was a former MVP candidate. Carson Wentz, we know, has been undermined by injuries. But that's not how players think. We're smarter than you think we are, and we're also as simple as you think we are. Why aren't we as good with you as we are with Nick Foles? And until you can answer that, we could riddle off stats, we could riddle off numbers, we could riddle off situations. But players are feeling this deep down in the primal sense. This team is better, this offense runs better with that guy who's gone more than the guy who's getting all the money right now. Got to fix that equation in their heads.
It's interesting you bring it up because chemistry becomes such a big part of football. The chemistry we have, the believability that we have in one another. Now, do I think that Carson Wentz takes too much of the blame? Yeah, but get this. The quarterback position, you should deflect 100% of the success or the credit when it comes your way, and you should accept 100% of the blame. And that's part of playing quarterback in this league. 7 drops. You mentioned the offensive line. They thought, to me, that's a group of players that are playing with a body clock. And you know what a body clock will get you? A body clock will get your butt beat. That's 1,001, 1,002, 1,003, and I'm spent because the ball should be out, right? And when you start to play like that, I don't necessarily look at the players and say they stink. I look at the coaches and say, what are you coaching? Because you're either coaching it or you're allowing it to happen. And if that's what's being allowed to happen, then you're not supporting that quarterback. And so I look at this as more of a team issue than a Carson Wentz issue. Carson Wentz is a damn good quarterback, but he's not getting the most of out of his team, and that goes back to the coaching staff and what they're allowing to happen within that organization.
Well, when you're a superstar, and I'm not bragging, but I have been a superstar, and sometimes it's no fun, and you do get all the blame, even though other people around you are not playing well. Being running back is really hard because you depend on the guys up front. And I went through it. Well, man, you're not running. People will say he's not running the same. It's nowhere to run. I mean, it's a little different. It's nowhere to run. With Carson Wentz, you can say that Alshon Jeffrey's not there, Deshaun Jackson's not there. You need those guys. Those are the guys that was there through training camp. You worked. You know them. And all of a sudden now you got backups. And backups, that's why they're backups. They are backups for a reason. That hurts this football team. Most definitely. I look at they won the Redskins game. They beat the Washington Redskins. They came back. They had Atlanta beat. He brought them back. Carson Wentz did. Now, it's not on him that the defense gives up a 50-yard screen to Julio Jones. Julio Jones.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Julio Jones. I mean, that's not his fault. So, I look at the offensive line. At one point, that's a team effort. I think that they might have thought the ball was out. You can see they didn't lay down on him. It was like, the ball ain't gone yet? Everybody come back to block. And
Marcellus made a great point yesterday, though. That was a 3-man rush. That means 8 people are dropping. That means you need to block longer.
Longer. A lot longer. So, I still say all the blame is not on Carson Wentz.
It also means at some point, if you can hold them out for 5 seconds, which they did before he got sacked, somebody, to your point, I don't care how many guys you have back. If I can't, we used to say it in Denver all the time. Mike Shanahan used to say this all the time. If you can't beat man coverage, you know what? You're going to be selling cars. And the bottom line is, it's not his fault that Goddard dropped a touchdown pass. There was another pass that was dropped. 7 passes dropped within this game. That takes him from a 50% completion percentage up to a 72 if those balls are caught. And those are 2 touchdowns, and they're giving up 26 points a game. So there's no question it's a team effort, but the easiest guy to point, to your point in your essay, the easiest guy to point the blame to is number 11.
I'm going to circle back to you, Mark, because you're the only one here with Super Bowl experience. My point previously has been, I think the Eagles, other than Carson Wentz, still have a bit of a Super Bowl hangover. They're satisfied.
Damn, what were they drinking?
They've accomplished. Carson Wentz rode the bench or was hurt and wasn't a part of it. The rest of these guys, from the coaching staff to the guys on the field, they're satisfied, in my opinion.
Well, I don't know that they're satisfied, but right now when you put on the film, they're not executing. So is that because they're satisfied? Is that because things are hunky-dory? I don't know. I can't read into their minds. But the bottom line, if you want to have success, you have got to go out and you have got to execute. And you've got to catch those balls. And you've got to do those. The difference between winning and losing in this league is razor thin. And it's about guys executing at the point where they're asked to execute in the critical situations. And when you put on Philly and you study on tape, they don't have enough guys making plays in critical situations.
I want to say this. It's unfair that he's getting this criticism, but it's a reality. You can talk about 7 drops and missing all these players. Nobody gives a damn. Talk about a running back right here. Oh, man, there's nowhere to run. We can't block them all. No one gives a damn. We need to see 1,500, 2,000 out of you, ED. When I played, they double-teamed me. They triple-teamed me, Marty, Bill Parcells. We don't give a damn. Because here's the equation that I think players always look at when you talk about the highest paid on your team, but still up and coming. I was that guy in San Diego. Objectively, you're the highest paid. We can see your contract. Good Lord, you're making money. But subjectively, are you the best player on our team? So when we have that equation, we start to get into some chemistry issues, some perception issues. And then you rely on numbers like this. That solves the equation for the players. Look at this in fourth quarter comebacks and game-winning drive opportunities. Guess who's the worst among all active quarterbacks? Carson
That's damning.
Wentz. Now, so look, I'm just trying to create the psychology around why we have issues for you, why we don't block for you, why you can see there's some chemistry disturbances here. It's because you're getting the most money, you haven't accomplished the most, and are you really the best? And then when money time comes, you're not one of the worst, you're the worst in the NFL. You calculate all that, now you can see why the players act.
Yeah, you have to still look. Carson is still a young quarterback. I mean, he really is. He's a young quarterback. I mean, and I think, at the quarterback position, you expect so much out of a guy that was at one point possibly going to be the MVP before he got hurt. So I see all the criticism that goes along with it. But like you said, when you play that position, you're the superstar, you get the criticism, but he still is. People understand he's still a young quarterback, and I like him as a quarterback. He's still a very good quarterback. I mean, I would be happy to have him on my team because he's not winning. I mean, that's not all his fault. It's like I can't throw the ball and I can't catch the ball. I can't be the quarterback and I can't go make the tackles also. I play quarterback.
Well, let's ask this question. Thursday night, they got to turn around on short and play the Green Bay Packers, one of the best teams in football. I see it as a must-win. I think the following week, I think they play the Jets, and then after that, it's a tough stretch of games for about 4 or 5 weeks. The Cowboys, off to a 3-0 start, probably get to 4-0. I see this as a must-win game this Thursday.
And I don't, because I take that literally. Like when you say must-win, that's a literal statement, and it's not. Let's just be real. If this team loses again and they go out there and they're 1-3, like, sky's not falling. I've been on the 0-3 team that won 10 games, made the playoffs. So we know mathematically they're not out of it. So it's not a must-win. We also know that the Dallas Cowboys more than likely are not going to win all their games. And you have 2 games against them to bring them back to you, make them regress to the mean. Look at the Cowboys' next 6 games. Saints, Packers, Jets, Eagles, Giants, Vikings, and then you got to play the Eagles again. So there is a silver lining in case they lose again. Hey, we're not out of it mathematically, and we got to play them boys twice.
This is what I love about the NFL. There's only 16 of them. So as a player, they all feel like must-wins. You get to that point where you're always kind of mashed down on the panic button. They have got to play better. They have got, I understand that it's not a must-win, but I get your point. And it's starting to feel like it's getting late early if you're the Eagles right now. So that's part of the reality of the way this league operates. But this is such a week-to-week league, and you'll see a team that drops an egg that looks horrible one week and bounces back and has a great week the next week. So, is it a must-win? No, but it's certainly starting to feel like they're in that kind of crunch time.
It's a must-win because they fall 3 games behind the Cowboys. Because you got to understand, they're going to lose again. They're just not going to run the table. That's going to happen. The Cowboys may lose, but if you're still 3 games behind, that hurts. I mean, realistically, looking at the games that they played, the Redskins, the Lions, and the Falcons, they should be 3-0. They really should. Or at worst, 2-1. And as a locker room, you know this, I know this. You sit in the locker room and say, man, we should be 3-0. Or we should be 2-1. Worse, we should be 2-1. We shouldn't have lost to the Lions. When I saw this, I'm like, Philly lost to the Lions? I was shocked. Then I look at the stats. I'm like, okay, the Lions didn't have great stats, but Philly had better. If you just looked at stats-wise, you think, okay, Philly won this game. And then you look at the score like, oh, they lost. So, I just feel like that this is a must-win for them.
Yeah, you start giving away games again. The Julio Jones play at the end of the Falcons game. Then you drop a game-winning touchdown pass. There's only so many games you can just give away and not pay a real penalty for them. And I just think looking at their future schedule, they could mess around and get to Thanksgiving and just be so far behind. And again, if they lose Thursday night, again, they'll have 10 days off, but that's 10 days of, to me, finger pointing at this point, and more fingers may get pointed at Carson Wentz and undermine the chemistry of the team.
What we're highlighting right now is the balancing act that is so difficult for a coaching staff. Is create a sense of urgency without lying to your team. Think about it, because if you go out there and say this is a must-win, you're lying. It's not a must-win. Last year, case in point, Carolina Panthers, 6-2. Everybody was basically saying, mail in their playoff, they're going to be in there. They end up 7-9 out the playoffs. So this thing can flip, as Mark said, week to week. How do you create that urgency, but being realistic about the perspective?
Right.
What's going on?
I think you end up putting all these teams all these plays go, here's a play we missed, here's a play we missed, here's a lack of execution, here's a lack of effort, we make those things, and you're sitting there at 3-0 or 2-1, like ED said. Yeah. And that's the realistic nature. You guys clean up your act, and we're going to be in this thing. But if that doesn't happen, we're not going to win one game.
Stop what you're doing, look down at your left wrist, because our friends at Movement Watches have got exactly what you're missing. Movement has you covered with tons of quality, clean, and all-around good-looking watches and accessories. Do your wrist and wallet a favor. Go check out their minimalist designs that you can have with no risk, because they offer free shipping and returns. They also have tons of sunglasses and offer interchangeable watch straps, so you can never run out of options for a new look. Movement watches start at just $95, so you're guaranteed to find something you love that won't break your bank. They've sold over 2 million watches across more than 160 countries, and their collections are always expanding. See why Movement keeps growing. Check out their expanding collection. Get 15% off today with free shipping and free returns by going to mvmt.com/speak. Go to mvmt.com/speak. Join the movement. Whitlock and Wiley, Mark Schlereth is back. We're joined now by Fox Sports college football analyst and Heisman Trophy winner, Super Bowl champion Reggie Bush. Time now for a big story. Let's move to Monday Night Football, where the Bears dominated the Redskins last night with the defense running roughshod over the Washington Redskins with 5 turnovers. Even Mitchell Trubisky got in on the fun, throwing for 3 touchdowns after a slow start to the year that once again left people doubting him. Trubisky continues to be compared to a couple of guys drafted after him, Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson. And unfortunately for Mitch, he's going to have a hard time living up with Mahomes and Watson, eclipsing him in records in passing yards and in touchdowns.
It's a big hill.
That's Runyon.
That's a lot of critics to silence is what that is. And so did Mitchell Trubisky silence his critics last night?
No. Silence? No. They're still out there whispering something. And since you ran out of line items there, because you could have put Pro Football Focus, my favorite thing. Shout out to Jalen Ramsey. What's up, boy? 36 a month. 38 qualified quarterbacks. Hey. Wow. And you're the number 2 overall pick, and we had to give up picks to move up in the draft to get you. Hi. That said, I like Mitch Trubisky. I'll tell you what I like about him. He can make the throws, and he's mobile. Yeah. And they're asking something different of him in this system this year than they even did last year, which is interesting. Aaron Rodgers is going through the same thing in his new system with Matt LaFleur. Aaron Rodgers' numbers are down until you play against them and you realize, Aaron Rodgers is still Aaron Rodgers. This situation with him, because of the defense in Green Bay, they're asking him to do something different. Last night we saw 80% in completion percentage. Last night we saw them win a ball game and him throw 3 touchdowns. So all that said, the body of work is not adding up to where he conveniently should fit as a number 2 overall pick. But I'm still a staunch supporter of Mitch Trubisky, especially with the adjustments they made this year in this offense.
Yeah, and I like what I saw from him this game, but we also got to look at the facts. That defense played lights out. They got 5 turnovers. They scored 21 points off of turnovers. So my question is, what happens when that defense doesn't get any turnovers, right? When they play against a New England Patriots team or even a Green Bay Packers team where they can protect the football, right, and not allow that defense to do what they did last night against Case Keenum, which I felt bad for Case Keenum last night. Boy, he was running for his life. But again, when it falls on Mitchell Trubisky's shoulders and he has to go out and win that football game for him, that's where I have questions because I still saw some overthrows. I saw some good Trubisky. I saw some bad Trubisky. And so we need consistency. We can't have these kinds of games every 3 or 4 games, right? Because at the end of the day, you are the leader of this team. You are the quarterback. And at some point, we're going to have to rely on you to win us some football games.
You have to know how you're built as a football team. And I will tell you, I did the Week 2 game in Denver with that defense.
Yeah.
And I'll just be straight up with you guys. As a former offensive lineman in me, as I studied their defense, I got diarrhea. Like, I kid you not, I had to rush to the restroom. They are that good at all 3 levels. I'm telling you, they get, whether it's Mack or whether it's Hicks or whether it's Roy Robertson Harris or whether it's Roquan Smith, Danny Trevathan, Eddie Jackson. Eddie Jackson was compared by Chuck Pagano to me as a young Reed in Baltimore.
Yeah.
That's like they are that good on defense. So understand that. Rely on that aspect of your football team. I looked at them and I thought, this reminds me of the early 90s when I played in Washington when the Eagles had Mike Pitts and Jerome Brown and Reggie White and Clyde Simmons and
Seth Joyner.
Byron Evans and Seth Joyner and Eric Allen. Like, that's how good this defense is.
Yeah.
They are legit. And Mitch Trubisky is not going to win you games out of the pocket. That's not what he's going to do. But when they run the ball, they flag all that, all that zone read stuff, in the RPO game. And when they get him out of the pocket, watch him throw these balls out of the pocket.
Yeah.
When he moves out of the pocket, this guy is as accurate and as good as anybody. In the pocket, that's where he struggles a little bit. So you have to design the offense for him. Is he going to shut up his critics? No, because if he gets in one of those games where he's got to go out and win it, that's a big question mark. And do I think he can do that? Probably not at this stage in his career.
You know what? Reggie, I'm going to tee you up here. He's who we thought Daniel Jones was. A guy that was drafted a bit high, and the guys behind him. And so, there's no chance of him silencing his critics because if I'm a Chicago Bears fan, I'm always going to sit there and say, if you put Deshaun Watson or Patrick Mahomes with this defense, my God.
Oh, my goodness.
And so it's going to be impossible for him to silence his critics. But I agree with Stink. I was watching that game last night, and I always refer to the perfect storm defense the Baltimore Ravens put together with Ray Lewis in 2000. And I started asking myself, I wonder if Khalil Mack can be that guy, that like what Ray Lewis was and that whole defensive personnel they got. Can they just overwhelm you with defense and make it so Mitchell Trubisky just runs downhill most of the season? And if they can do that, Mitchell Trubisky might not have to silence his critics to have a lot of success.
Well, that's like the Chicago Bears team that we played against in 06 that beat us, right? When they had Rex Grossman at quarterback and Brian Urlacher at linebacker. That defense, every time they got a turnover, there was a touchdown, right? They were lateraling passes back to each other. But that defense carried them into the Super Bowl, right? Devin Hester was returning kicks.
Wow.
He returned the opening kick of the Super Bowl for a touchdown. And so this formula has been proven to work. It's just not often, right? It's not often that we see a defense have to carry a team all the way into the Super Bowl. So this defense is good. They're lights out. And I've had the unfortunate pleasure of playing against a defense kind of like this before. And so maybe it can work, right? Maybe this formula does work out for them because I agree with you. I don't know if we can depend on Trubisky to win us a game with his arm in the pocket.
Here's what you're going to have to depend on, and this is interesting. You're going to have to depend on that defense continue to create turnovers.
Yep.
They led the league last year with 36. You know what the last team to lead the league was in turnovers, creating turnovers, and then the next year beat that number of turnovers? So the last team to do that. So they had 36 last year. The last team to lead the league in turnovers and then beat that number they had the previous year. The 1973 Steelers.
Oh my goodness.
That's how rare that is. Rarefied air.
Let me ask you this, because you covered one of their games, had some interaction with Matt Nagy. The concern I would have, Matt Nagy's an offensive coach.
Yeah.
He's part of the decision-making, I believe, that went up and got Trubisky, right? And so will his ego get involved in terms of, I got to make this offense go. I got to make this quarterback go. I'm an offensive-minded coach. This is my quarterback. I want to do what McVay did. Will his ego get involved?
No, I think he understands that, Mitch played, 13 games in college, that there's a learning curve, and everybody's on a different learning curve when they get to this league. Some guys that came out of small schools and didn't do anything all of a sudden jump into the NFL, and they're like, oh, yeah, this makes sense to me. And some guys who played in big schools who were all everything get into this league and go, oh, my gosh, I'm overwhelmed, right? So he understands that there's a process here, and he's okay with that process. He told me that the first game against Green Bay, the Thursday night opener, was the longest drive home he's ever had because he didn't put his team in a position to win. And he called 4 running plays in the second half. Basically said, hey, Mitch, it's on you. And he's like, well, now, you got to give me a break because some of those were RPOs. And I said, hey, Matt, tell me the last time that you called an RPO and the quarterback had the option to throw it and he chose not to. Don't give me that. I had more of them called. You got to call them, right?
Yeah, call to run.
Right, but he understands that there's a process here. And he's one of those young coaches that I look at and go, Matt Nagy is sharp. He understands what his football team is, and he understands he needs to do a great job of calling plays and putting his quarterback in a position to have success.
Look, I just want to sum it all up. He's a mixed bag of nuts. Let's just be real.
As long as they take the Brazil nuts, those are the dirt-clotted nuts, man.
Nasty
right. They don't even have no flavor. I don't know. Brazil nuts, I'm done.
The day after you have a 116 quarterback rating is not the day we should be doing this, and that's what Mitch Trubisky had last night. But at the same time, only 5 quarterbacks this year have 3 starts and 3 or fewer passing touchdowns, and him, Kirk Cousins, Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen, Joe Flacco. Not the company you want to keep. So you can ride the number 1 defense. Let's see how long it goes.
Hey guys, this is Jason Whitlock from Speak for Yourself. Are you ready for what's ahead? You can't always predict the future, but you can game plan for it. Generations of families and businesses have harnessed the power of Pacific to help them reach their unique goals. Whether you need to save enough money to meet your needs, ensure your family is protected, or make sure you don't run out of money, Pacific Life has a variety of financial solutions that can help. Pacific Life counts more than half of the 100 largest U.S. companies as its clients and has been named one of the 2019 world's most ethical companies by the Ethisphere Institute. Protecting what matters most to people for 150 years and counting? That's the power of Pacific. Ask a financial professional about how Pacific Life can help you game plan for the future, or visit pacificlife.com. Reggie Bush is back with us. Speaking of the Big Noon Kickoff. All right, let's move to Ann Arbor, where Jim Harbaugh is looking for answers after last weekend's blowout loss to Wisconsin. After that game, another big-time coach, our very own Urban Meyer, speaking of the Big Noon Kickoff, offered some insight into why Harbaugh and the Wolverines have struggled so much this year.
Oh, let's hear it is.
It's all about toughness and effort. That's the first place you start. I'd have a team meeting. I'd go through every play. It'd be miserable. Forget spread. This conversation is well beyond that. There's about a toughness, and it has to be. Mm-hmm. It has to be. How did that happen? Yeah. I mean, it's got to be toughness, and it's got to be effort. Because you cannot start saying that there's NFL players all over that field. What are we talking about here?
All right. Marcellus, I'm going to jump to Reggie.
Please do.
Yeah. You were there. Do you blame Harbaugh for Michigan's lack of toughness?
I do. because when you think about the Harbaugh brothers, their staple has been toughness. When Harbaugh was with Stanford, they were tough, right? When he was with the 49ers, I hated playing that team because you knew Patrick Willis was going to try to knock your head off, right? And that whole defense was really good. So when your staple throughout your career has been toughness, both him and his brother, and then you put this on film, when you have 2 weeks to prepare for this team, right? At the end of the day, if you can lose the game, but you at least need to show up and hit somebody in the mouth. And that's the one thing that we did not see. And they got steamrolled by Wisconsin. It looked like they had never seen a Wisconsin Badgers football game. The way that guys were losing containment, guys were outside of their gaps, holes as big as this table. And then I don't see enough guys on that team on the sideline mad, right? I need to see some guys mad, angry, yelling at each other like, let's go. We got to turn this up right now because right now we're getting embarrassed in front of the whole world. And I didn't see enough of that. Really, I didn't see any of that. And then the 14 points they scored, that was garbage time. Like, the game really wasn't even that close.
You know what? This is tough for me to talk about another team's toughness because it's tough to make it a physical attribute or metric to show you that, because if you don't think that they're tough, I dare you to stand in those trenches and deal with the hell that is paid.
But we lived it, though, so we know it.
Right. Even in a losing effort, it's still hell to pay. But then let's go into the mental part and responding to adversity. And this is why this full screen's up here. 0-4 versus Ohio State. So, Urban Meyer, you know why. 1-6 versus ranked opponents on the road. 1-9 versus top 10 teams. And the worst of all, when they say you're going to lose, you lose every single time. So that's a mental toughness that we're not seeing translate with this team. Jim Harbaugh, and when you talk about they're walking into this year, and we were talking about the 2-quarterback system and potentially would that work? We all know how that's played out for them as well. And it does seem like he's lost his way in a way that was unexpected. Coming from the pros to college, we all said, this is perfect for him. You get the rotation every 3-4 years. Those guys leave that locker room. You don't become white noise. It seems like just the opposite effect has occurred in Ann Arbor.
I think Jim Harbaugh, for a number of years, was a great head football coach. I think some guys struggle when there's a cultural change, and there has been one in football across the board, from high school to college to pros. There's so much concern about safety, so much less practice time. You're restricted on the number of contact practices. And then the kids are a bit different. And so I think Jim Harbaugh is still a great football coach. I think football has changed, and he's one of the coaches that has struggled to deal with that. And so how do you create toughness? I'm old enough to remember, man, they'd have you wrestling. They'd have you doing all kinds of
Oklahoma
things.
drill.
Illegalized. And there was again, Urban Meyer's talking about I'd be in meetings and blah, blah, blah. And there was a day it was like, no, we'd be out on that practice field for 3 hours beating our brains in to establish that toughness. And again, I don't know what Jim Harbaugh's system is for creating the toughness, but I think it's different than the way it used to be, and I think he's struggling with that.
Well, you just said you don't know what a system is, right? And so the one thing that we wanted to see from this game, which we had not seen for most of this year throughout the whole season, was an identity, right? We don't know what the identity of this football team is, especially on offense. We don't know if they want to be a running team, if they want to be a spread team, right? We don't know are you going to be the team that gives a ton of effort and finishes you all the way to the end? Are you going to be the physical team that just tries to knock your block off every time you line up on them, right? Like, what is their identity? And that's been the one thing that we just have not seen from this team. And because of that, I think it speaks to their struggles, right? The quarterback is getting hit. It doesn't matter which quarterback, whether it's McCaffrey or whether Shea Patterson is back there. These guys are getting hit in the mouth early and often, right? And the offensive line is breaking down. And then on the defensive side of the ball, we just saw Jonathan Taylor and this Wisconsin team run all over them, right? Like, everybody in the world knows what the identity of Wisconsin is run the ball down your throat, right? And now they have a passing attack with Jack Cohn. They got a great receiver in Cephas. But, again, even before that, you knew Wisconsin was going to run that ball at you and run it down your throat a lot.
But, Reggie, That's what Wisconsin does, and that's what they're going to do. Or Michigan, whoever else is in front of them. Taylor's had 9 games now, over 200 yards rushing. So good luck for all you guys out there trying to stop that attack. It's interesting. I love your point about what is their brand in terms of what is their philosophy, because toughness works, result-based. Yeah. Finesse works. Ask the Rams and the Colts back in our days when we played. That works as well. But their brand is interesting because I'm talking to the high school prospect. What kind of guy are you getting? When you talk about DB University, you're going to Texas or LSU, a few 4 or 5 star. You're a running back, where you going? USC, where you went? Like
Alabama.
Alabama. Where's the Michigan guy? And it's getting lost in translation of what is the Michigan guy and what does that mean in terms of his mental approach. I'll leave you with this scripture.
Well, I'm glad you went there. Go ahead.
You already know.
Yeah.
You got to be hot or cold, not lukewarm, or I'll spit you out my mouth. If you kind of caught between 2 different worlds, that's the worst place to be.
I'm glad you mentioned scripture, and I'm glad Joel Klatt will be here tomorrow. I'm glad we had this conversation because it makes me think of things. And I hate to leave us on this note because there won't be time to respond, but we're going to get into it with Joel tomorrow. When I think about these coaches that have transcended any of the cultural changes, Nick Saban, he gonna show up. He's fire and brimstone. You know exactly who he is. He's the tough as nails, conservative, old school coach. Dabo Swinney, religious guy, tough as nails, old school coach. Urban Meyer, tough as nails, old school, religious guy. And again, we're gonna get into it tomorrow because I want to flush it out. But Jim Harbaugh goes off to San Francisco. And the new Jim Harbaugh, and again, I met Jim Harbaugh when we were both kids in college. He used to come to Ball State because some of his high school teammates played on our team. Jim Harbaugh's a different cat coming out of San Francisco. He's a little bit woke. He's a little bit not who I thought he was for all those years coming out of Michigan. He's a little bit of a different person. And I'm wondering, in this era where you can't hit and all those other things, is that old Nick Saban, Urban Meyer, Dabo Swinney way, that whatever they have within them that emanates from them, I just wonder if Harbaugh still gives off those same vibes. All right, welcome back, Whitlock and Wiley. Reggie Bush and Mark Schlereth are back with us. Time now for Darnell's question of the day. Darnell, take it away.
Yes, sir. Let's move to New England.
All right.
Patriots are still dealing with the fallout from the Antonio Brown fiasco. Yesterday, Bill Belichick was asked on his weekly radio interview if he was disappointed that the AB signing didn't work out, and not surprisingly, he didn't give much insight into what happened. Take a listen.
I appreciate the fact, Glenn, that you want to ask those questions.
You're welcome, Bill.
But really, we've moved on. We released a statement about it. It didn't work out, and moved on. The game against the Jets, and now we're on to Buffalo. So that's really where my attention and focus is going forward.
I'm sure you'll appreciate my question, too, then. Do you have any regrets in signing this guy in the first place?
Yeah, I think we just talked about that, Lou. But I do appreciate you asking the question. I'm sure you've got more of them.
Thanks, Bill.
Does Belichick owe an explanation for signing AB?
Does he owe us an explanation? No, because I would say just read his actions. Does he regret signing AB? Yeah, he just cut him. I just don't know.
That is not true. That's not congruent. Keep going, though. But you cut a lot of players. You cut Seymour or something. Like,
you just signed a guy with all that controversy and then you cut him? That's not a sign of regret?
For me, it's not. Now, let me first go back to this, which is you don't owe me anything, Bill Belichick, in terms of what this is.
What about Patriots fans?
No. Stop being so damn nosy.
They don't care?
It's their secret sauce. Look, I don't care how, and I don't want to see how they make the hot dogs. I just know that when I go to a game, I want to see a good product, and I see the best product when I watch this team go out there and play. So it's just interesting to me. People just want to chase things. When every other transaction that occurs, y'all ain't up there asking the capologist how that happened, the general manager how that go down. You just nosy, you clout chasing, and it's because he's AB that you want to know more than when you ask of this same organization every other time.
Yeah, I would agree with you on this one. I don't think Belichick owes anybody an explanation. Man, he's one of the greatest coaches, if not the greatest coach ever. And again, when you look at the tape in the game, they're winning and they want the best team. They might be the best team in football right now, so.
Hold on, y'all flipping me, though. Y'all flipping me. Come on, man. He signed someone that there was a lot of information.
But we know why he cut him, though. We know why.
No. But again, I wouldn't mind getting in a conversation like, Bill, man, didn't you read these stories about AB? This is a guy at the moment that's not a good person, a good human being. Why did you think he would work here when he just clown-suited the Raiders and John Gruden?
But that's their history. They've done that before with guys who were quote-unquote not good dudes or not good teammates.
On AB's level.
No.
On AB's level.
No, but has it worked? Have they won multiple championships? Like everybody, I don't think he owes anybody anything. Now, you don't have to be as snarky as he is, but I don't think he owes anybody anything. And you all know what you already know the answer to the question. Why did you sign him? Because if you put on the film, the guy is amazing, right?
Okay.
But you get to the point where you look at him and go, yeah, but he's an amazing ass clown too. So, at some point, we just decided to move on.
Answer this question.
Okay, let me answer.
For Bill Belichick.
Okay.
Do you regret signing him?
I think I've moved on from that.
You get him. Pass me them.
That's why I like Slater, man.
Right.
Give me a real answer.
No, because if it would have worked, great. It didn't cost us anything. Theoretically, it didn't cost us anything.
Didn't cost us anything.
And you're like, we're going to win with or with, like we said when they signed him. They will win with or without him.
Well, I'll say this: if his answer is no, because if it would have worked out, we would have had this great success. That's why he's not answering the question. If that's really how he feels, that wouldn't just do nothing but add fuel to the fire.
Well, I think Belichick really has a uniform mindset around how he looks at talent, and he takes that roll of the dice. And you're a gambling man, you understand this. Like, in that moment before the dice are rolled, you got to make a decision. Oh, it's going out there, how much I'm putting down. And then if you lose it, you can sit there and say that hurt, but the regret is not it's not appropriate for that moment. The regret is this. I thought this was going to work, and now I cut my losses. Think about this. He does this even with guys who have clean records. Julian Edelman was a 7th round rolling the dice. Dude played quarterback his entire college career. And he said, I don't have to give up much to get this guy, but I think I see something in him. You look at Wes Welker, who's arguably one of their best receivers in history. The dude got cut from Chargers, was so-so with the Miami Dolphins, and he said, here we go again. Let's go figure this out, and became Wes Welker. Now you see AB on film, you're like, woo, I love that. And then someone from HR taps you and says, you sure? It comes with something. You can't regret before the roll, you can't regret after the roll, because that's how you roll.
Josh Gordon, same thing.
Josh Gordon.
He's doing the same thing right now with Josh Gordon. Roll the dice on Josh Gordon when nobody else in the NFL wanted Josh Gordon. And now look what he's doing. And so to me, to Mark's point, this is who they are. This is what they do.
Okay, Josh Gordon has been basically guilty of hurting himself. There was evidence out there beforehand, like AB, his missteps impact other human beings.
But Josh Gordon's issues also impacted the team as well.
Sure.
The team, but I'm just talking about, look, this dude likes drugs. That's a self-inflicted wound.
Okay.
AB's out there wounding other people with his behavior, allegedly.
Allegedly.
We're allegedly. But even some of the stuff that we know, just not paying debts and the abuse in writing over Twitter or in emails and texts, the harassment. Aaron, and again, this is why people are asking the question. And again, I'm not sitting here saying, hey, Belichick needs to give us a long-winded answer. I am saying I see why people are asking the questions because you throw on top of that like, hey, man, there were people that said Aaron Hernandez was a bad dude.
Some issues, yeah.
Some real, and y'all signed him too, and we've come to find out he's the Ray Caruth and O.J. Simpson all wrapped into one deal.
Yeah, I get that, and I get the alleged aspect of that, but when it gets down to it, when you're talking about a football team, and the locker room is one of the most forgiving places in the world, you're talking about Josh Gordon, and I know off the field, and I know what they're accused of are two incredibly different things. But when it comes to the locker room, if Josh Gordon screws up again, you are hurting that team. Just like if Antonio Brown comes up and acts a fool, you're hurting that team. And it's looked at, I think, from their perspective, as the same thing. So we're taking kind of the same
I
tact.
get it. Yeah. You guys are 3 tremendous football players. I'm talking about, this is like a journal. We're not discussing whether the locker room cares. We're talking about why the media wants him to answer this question.
Yeah.
And again, I think Dana Jacobson, when she asked the question, knew what she was going to get, and CBS knew what she was going to get. Right. This is Bill Belichick's shtick. He's not coming off of it. I see both sides. Whitlock and Wiley, Eric Dickerson, Mark Schlereth are back. Let's move to Dallas, where Dak Prescott and the Cowboys have been rolling this season, jumping out to a 3-0 start with Dak leading one of the most explosive offensive attacks in the entire NFL. The only thing that isn't rolling in Dallas right now is Dak's contract negotiations, which reportedly have slowed down after months of speculation that a massive deal was about to get done. Question here is, open-ended, why isn't Dak's deal done yet?
You don't know that answer? He's still adding commas to that damn number. He like, ooh, y'all done messed up now. Woo! Dak is in a beautiful position. His floor is Carson Wentz. If I have a horrible year, I'm making 32 and a half with Carson Wentz, trust me. And if I ball out, Russell Wilson, who? Russell Wilson down there doing what? I am the highest paid by a wide margin. I'll tell you why. One, everyone out there saying, but what if he gets hurt? Dude already had that Lloyd's of London insurance policy, baby. I'm going to get that money regardless. If I go out there and put up what I've been doing right now, it's going to turn into something that we've never seen before. It's worth the roll of the dice for Dak Prescott. And I'm going to give you some numbers for those who still don't believe me, because not only am I Dak's agent, my name is Todd France. And right now, look at these numbers in which Dak Prescott is sandwiched between all time, because he just qualified now. Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Dak Prescott, Tom Brady, and Drew Brees, all-time NFL highest career passing ratings. Hello. Do you understand what 40 million looks like? Dak does, and that's why Dak is playing this out. It's not slowed down. It's just like, I'm going to wait and get what's deserved, and it's coming, 40 mil.
Listen, why is he not done? Yeah, I can't argue any of that. Why is he not done is because they didn't get him done. Like, at what point did you not realize that he was going to be your quarterback based upon the way you built your team? Because he completed 67% of his passes his rookie year. They went 13-3. 62, almost 63% of his passes his second year. 9-7. They were 10-6 last year. 67% of his passes. Like, why are you waiting? Could you have gotten him done for $20, $21 million? I mean, he came out as a third rounder, fourth rounder. Yeah. He didn't, like, in NFL parlance, he made no money, right?
Right.
So if you're going to come give him life-changing money last year at this time, when you already knew what he was, but no, you shuffled your feet. Here's the problem with that, too. When you shuffle your feet like this in the NFL, one, it ends up costing you 10 times more money, and two, you didn't do right by a player who's done right by you in your own locker room.
They're about to do right, those things.
Ooh, they're going to do right.
Well, they're going to have to, but you know what doing right's going to do? It's going to cost them about double what it would have cost.
You think Jerry cares? I think Jerry's happy that again, if Jerry's going to make this
then
mistake.
Why is it slowing down?
Well, I'm about to tell you, but go ahead.
Okay.
I'm about to tell you.
Because they're not going to pay him. I think I get everybody's attention. Yeah. I get everybody's attention with that.
Yeah.
Look, what's the rush? I mean, really, what is the big rush? Dak's going to get paid either way. He's going to make 35, he'll make 40. The big thing is that he plays for the Dallas Cowboys. You know, Dak is on a rookie contract. He's making probably $10 to $15 million off the field now in commercial. Being a Dallas Cowboy has value. Let's say this is his second contract. Well, he had his first as rookie, then it's his second contract. When Dak is still playing on that fourth contract, Ezekiel Elliott will be in Cabo for real, not coming back. So that's telling you that this is going to be their guy. He's going to be their quarterback of the future. You look at Tony Romo, who never won a Super Bowl, but Tony's doing fine. Cowboys love him. Dak, who's never won a Super Bowl but has the team and possibly can win a Super Bowl, for sure take him to the playoffs and win. So being a Cowboy has a lot of value, but most definitely they'll get this deal done.
I think the deal's done. I really do. And I think that it's at such a high number that they want to wait. They want to wait and announce this to me the bye week. Because when they come out with this number and it starts with a 4, they don't want the news story that goes along with it while they're off and rolling 3-0 and everybody coming in, my God, Dak's the highest paid guy, and everybody answering those questions. I think the deal's done. I think it's done at 40. And I think they're going to wait until the bye week. I think they have it in week 8. And that's when they'll announce it, if it can hold that long. I got to tip my hat to Dak, Todd France. I sat here all summer mocking them and thinking they blew it. They are cashing a lottery ticket like you wouldn't believe, and I think it's already cashed. And my point to you, Stink, was like, I think Jerry Jones is so desperate for a Super Bowl and so desperate to find his next franchise quarterback because he got no credit for anything that happened the first Dallas dynasty. That was all Jimmy Johnson, the Herschel Walker trade, Troy, everybody but Jerry got credit. Dak is his baby. And so if Dak gets 40 and gets overpaid or gets more money, it costs him more money on the back end, that's all just a credit to Jerry.
I have to push back on that. Beautiful way of looking at this.
Yeah.
The journalist in you was all out. But a contract, until it's executed, is not effective. That means, and the way that they've been doing their extensions have been 4 years. So 4, 160, 5, 200. I love my insurance policy, but I need that executed. And then once that's executed, you can't hide that. That's the problem I think is not done. Maybe, look, we have that, or handshake.
A verbal hit, that's what I mean.
But here's the thing, Whitlock, if I got you a $200 million contract, I said, won't you just wait till the other guys can handle this news? Are you waiting? Because I'm not. I'm not waiting for my locker room to handle
Dak's
this.
built different.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody built like they're going to wait on $200 million.
Man, if he
Except Russell Westbrook
if he
did.
told me that we got a handshake deal, don't say that. Zip! I ain't saying, what's the purpose of saying something?
Because right now you're on a 4-year, $4.7 million deal, and you're sitting there.
Not changing.
But that's not going to change.
Dak can go tear up his knee right now, and Jerry's still giving him that money because Jerry believes this is his discovery.
Okay, if you guys believe that, which I never trust in, I don't need a handshake. I need ink, and I need my ink to hit paper. Me personally, but
hey, we've all
been there before.
It's a lineman. It's different.
Right.
Okay.
Marcellus, I'm just telling you, wait till your son gets old enough, and wait till you see the car you buy. Right now, you sitting there, I'll never buy my son a Mercedes. Wait till he gets 16.
Oh, yeah, he getting that thing. He getting a Ferrari 16.
Now, you said that right.
Right.
I said I'd never pay $100,000 for a truck. I got one now.
So, when it's your baby, when it's your idea.
Yeah, he getting that.
Jerry is decided. Jerry, this is one of Jerry's proudest moments. I went out and got our next Roger Staubach. I believe. My son didn't even believe in Dak. I did. This is me. This ain't Jimmy Johnson. I built this team, and hell, you know what? I may give Dak 45, even though he didn't ask for it.
Why you asking?
You're going to make what? I'm telling you, in about 12 years, son, you know what? I got you 2 cars.
For school and for the weekend. Let's live, little man. I love it.
All right, before we go, I'd like to elaborate on the point I made yesterday concerning Odell Beckham Jr., Antonio Brown, and other self-worshiping athletes and celebrities. Self-worship is the new American identity, replacing Judeo-Christian identity that defined America for hundreds of years. The Hollywood establishment, in conjunction with the Silicon Valley tech and social media companies, are reshaping the way Americans worship and who we worship. We worship ourselves first, and we worship select athletes and celebrities most passionately. We document every aspect of our existence with selfies, pictures of meals, videos of concerts. We're all documentarians of our own history-making lives. Facebook and IG are our own personal Netflix, where we publish how we want to be perceived. Narcissism is good. The only thing better is the idolization of athletes and celebrities Hollywood and Silicon Valley anoint as influencers. LeBron James, OBJ, and AB run mega churches on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. They think of themselves as brands, but in reality, they operate as deities. A deity is a god or a goddess. It's someone who seeks divine status. LeBron calls himself a king and has the chosen one tatted across his back. AB's God complex expresses itself in the disrespectful way he treats the people he deems below his economic station. On Sunday night, Odell Beckham introduced himself as someone to be exalted.
OBJ, I'm him. OBJ, I'm him.
The introduction offended me, but I'm old. I was raised in a small Baptist church. I'm out of style because I believe in the Judeo-Christian values that used to permeate American culture that allowed America to transform itself in ways that make me proud and more free than my ancestors. I believe self-worship is at the heart of our societal ills. It's certainly at the root of Antonio Brown's meltdown. Deities are reluctant to embrace humility, slow to reflect, and dangerously delusional. They seek the approval and guidance of their followers as if their followers are the higher power. AB can't stop his descent because he worships at the wrong church, his own, the platforms he's built on IG and Twitter. He's not the sports world's lone false god. He's just the first to fall due to his social media addiction. There will be more. More Speak for Yourself after this. Eric Dickerson is back. Let's move to Eric's team, the Rams, who are 3-0 on the year after escaping Cleveland with a win Sunday night, but still have some cause for concern after Jared Goff put together another mediocre game. It's been just a few weeks since Goff got the most guaranteed money in NFL history, but questions are already flying about if he can live up to his deal. His numbers are way down so far this year, including drops in yards per game, passer rating, and his Pro Football Focus rank. He's also on pace for just 21 touchdowns after throwing 32 last season. All right, the question here is, will Jared Goff live up to his record-setting contract?
Damn, I have to be this guy.
Glad you got to go first.
Yeah, I know you are, Rambassador. Lucky for him, he has Sean McVay, and respect to Jared Goff's ability. But living up to this contract is going to be very difficult. I'll tell you why. Beyond being redundant and talking about some of the numbers we've seen and the decline, we know Todd Gurley has his decline as well. The offensive line has some injuries. Let's talk about some of the attributes that doesn't get brought up often. Something between the ears of Jared Goff makes me look at him and question what's really going on. And I say that because I have 3 moments, pressure-filled moments, that Jared Goff didn't respond admirably to. One was getting drafted number 1 overall, and then you had to deal with Jeff Fisher, and we know he went 0-7. So that's already like, do I put that on you, Jared Goff, or not? I don't have a pattern yet. But then you look at them in the Super Bowl, and they put up 3 points. And you're like, oh, that was another pressure-filled moment. Did he live up to expectations? Then he gets paid. And then the first time we see him on the national audience, we see him in this game, and it's like, now you're starting to map these expectations with that contract and then these pressure-filled moments that don't live up to those numbers. So it has me sitting back patiently observing Jared Goff to say, is he ever going to exceed the expectations, especially in a pressure-filled moment? Because right now, I don't have the full resume that says he will.
Well, first of all, Jared Goff is still a young quarterback in the National Football League. You know, in his first year with Jeff Fisher, I might as well have been coaching that quarterback, to be honest with you. So,
yeah.
And one thing you got to understand that with the Rams, the offense has started off very slow this year. And I'm not a big fan of not playing your quarterbacks in the preseason. I feel like that they should have played him in the preseason. I feel like they should have played their receivers in the preseason. You know, him and Cooper Kupp, they're good together. But still, in the preseason, you get a real feel for each other. Cooper Kupp was out all of last year because of an injury. You know, in a sense, you can always say, is a guy worth $30 million? Is he worth $40 million? Is he worth $50 million? You know, it'll be like, man, he's not worth that kind of money. But, you know, that's the price tag now to have a top-notch quarterback. One thing about the Rams is the Rams the last 2 years, especially last year, they use play action more than any team in the National Football League. Last year, we had a real running game. We really ran the football, especially at the beginning of the year with Todd Gurley. Now we're not running the football as much. We're not running it effectively. What you've seen is the New England Patriots took a page from the Detroit Lions. When they played us and they almost beat us, they started playing the backers outside. So they're making the people making you run inside. The jet sweeps don't work as much.
Yeah.
So we've got to find a way. Our offensive line is not the same offensive line. We've got to find a way to run the football, make that play action a real play action. And then I think you will see the Jared Goff that you saw last year.
Rambassador, you did a nice job.
I see it tapping. I see it tapping like you said. Like I just can't wait.
You tried your best.
You did.
But I'm going to go back to what I just talked about in the previous segment. Jared Goff is Sean McVay's baby. And he just showered him with a record contract inappropriately. His baby didn't earn that. But Sean McVay, because we love, and I love talking about the players and the athletes and their egos, but their egos are matched by the coaches. There's no question about it. The coaches have just as big of egos, and when they put their rep on the line, this is my quarterback, this is my guy, I created this. I'm going to overpay this. And I think Jared Goff got that money prematurely. It's too much. He's not going to live up to it because he's not that kind of a talent. He's a good quarterback. You know, I basically, Vince Ferragamo's who he reminds me of, but he's getting paid like he's Terry Bradshaw. I think that's inappropriate. And I think it's a reflection of Sean McVay's ego and him taking care of his baby, his quarterback, rather than paying the guy for what he's earned. He's just not that.
Well, you got to look at this. I mean, we've won 2 divisional titles with Jared Goff.
Oh,
2 divisions. He's played great. Look at the game to get us to the Super Bowl. Now people will say, oh, y'all didn't deserve to be there. But in New Orleans, the first game, we lost to New Orleans in New Orleans. But Jared Goff brought us back in that game. It was the defense that let us down. The second game, we were down 13-0 in that same stadium. Jared Goff had a great game in that game to bring us back. In the Super Bowl, I got to say, I don't even put that all on Jared Goff. You're playing against, coaching against possibly, I'd say, the greatest defensive-minded coach to ever coach a football team in Bill Belichick. And what are we going to do? We're throwing the football. We're trying to throw the football instead of run the football. So I can't put that game on.
I think he's a good quarterback. I just don't think he's worth the money they gave him. I have no problem with him being their starter. I just think they overpaid him. And that pressure of being overpaid is going to eventually bite him in the rear end.
Yeah, if you're good, you could just go with the flow. If you're great, you can overcome these circumstances and dynamics. He's 27-7 as a starter. I'm not counting that first year. But Belichick comes out with a 6-1 defense that has now been replicated this year by others. You're not going to stretch the football on us in the running game. You're going to have to beat us with your passing game. So far, hasn't answered that bell.
Uncle Jimmy's here to help us talk about our approval rating for Carson Wentz. Marcellus said some incredible things. I know
He did, nephew.
Second to you.
Yeah.
He did. But today, big dummy of the day got to go to the person that during their Whitlock just decided they wanted to bring up their ex-wife and put their address out there and tell everybody. Why did woman want you to let everybody know she living in a nursing home? That's probably why she left your ass, man. You can't never maintain no anonymity.
Anonymity, all right. Let's talk Carson Wentz.
He over here playing
who has played well this year, but has watched the Eagles fall to 1-2 after some subpar performances from his receivers and offensive line. All right, Marcellus, do you think Wentz's teammates miss Nick Foles?
Hell yeah, they do. You always miss what's best to you. We all do, right? And look, he got on the Super Bowl ring, and then you look at the offense when it stalls, whether it's all on Carson Wentz or not, you always think in the back of your head, damn, what would Nick Foles do in this situation? And what would be the results? They were just too good with Nick Foles, even in those short spurts. Yeah, they missed him.
I got a message for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Message?
Jay-Z said we moved past kneeling. Bill Belichick said we've moved on from Antonio Brown. The Eagles need to move on from Nick Foles.
Okay, I'm with you.
Uncle Jimmy, I know you agree with me.
The answer is yes. The Eagles already miss Nick Foles.
Yeah, exactly.
At this stage of the game, Carson Wentz is just a thought.
A what?
A thought or
An afterthought. You know, you asking that question is like asking the Blue M&Ms if they can do without Uncle Jimmy. It ain't happening right now. Red Lobster got all-you-can-eat shrimp. Ain't nobody leaving me right now. That's like asking the Pips to sing Midnight Train to Georgia without Gladys Knight. That's like asking Genesis to sing In the Air of the Night without Phil Collins.
That's a good one.
I surprised y'all with that one, didn't I?
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
Look, man, Nick Foles is the heart and soul of the Philadelphia Eagles.
No, he plays for the Jaguars.
Just like I'm the heart and soul of this show.
Oh, here we go. I knew it. Who he is going to
Now, look here, man. Look, on the for real, we all know Uncle Jimmy been around the block. I done had a shot of tequila with monogamy, so therefore I feel like I'm able to speak on it.
Tequila
I've been through 5 ex-wives, and I know better than anybody on this panel how bad you missed that one that got away.
Uh-huh. It was good to you.
And right now at this stage of the game, bro, that's Nick Foles, the one that got away. For me, I ain't gonna lie, ain't no shame in my game. It was Mae Dessa. I was a fool to let her get away. I gave up too soon. I didn't think she was gonna fill up the position.
What?
At that time, she was only weighing 260. And I kept saying to her, I said, Dessa, baby, you gotta pick your weight up, baby. So when she didn't make the weight, I mean, I had to cut her, man. What was I supposed to do? Because by that time, Keita was already coming along. Bro, 5'3", 320, a bottomless pit of voluptuous love. What's a brother to do? I had to trade up to get her. But little did I know, at that time, then Mae Dessa just blossomed. I didn't know she was gonna blossom into the full-figure woman that she was. Man, it ain't nothing worse than seeing your woman, your ex-woman, 6 months later looking good and done gained 80 pounds. It hurt me to my soul. I'm like, Dessa, how come you couldn't do that when we was together? That's how the Eagles feel.
We got to get to our approval rating. Cut it out.
Where you from, man?
Y'all play too much, man.
Anyway, I got Carson Wentz as a role player, 62. Up a point in job performance, up a point in all-time greatness, down a point in character, down 4 in authenticity.
Yeah, I got him as a role player too, but all-time greatness went up. He did get paid. You know I love that. That authenticity, stop lying. It's all on him. You know you mad at your O-line, and they mad at you too, brother. Something going on out there.
All-star on the internet. My God, these guys are crazy.
Everybody else getting the smoke.